Actually, you know what? Itchy. I don't need that. I have over here. To the young man, to the young man over here. Yeah, I should card him, by the way. What kind of for you? No, I do, because we're out of bourbon. We're gonna have to change our buying habits over here. I'm telling you. Baruch Hashem.
I got yelled at once for not buying alcohol.
Baruch Hashem.
You gotta have a balance.
All right, I will say good evening, a good night of Shabbos. It is a schos, Baruch Hashem. First of all, we should just, I just want to really open up, just like with tremendous Akar Satov. Just, you should know, like, Steve really takes, like, a lot of ownership over the shir. I have the easy parts. I just have to show up and, Baruch Hashem, give the shir. But Steve really takes like ownership over everything, the sponsorships, the food, the drink. So Chaburah, it's important. You know, a lot of times in life, kind of like we roll into things, and because they're all set up, we just assume, like it just happened. You know, if you'll notice, usually it's Steve who sends out the first message about the shir. Before I even started thinking about the shir, he's already thinking about the shir. So Chaburah, just make sure you give him a tremendous shkoyach. It's not because he doesn't have other things going on in life. He's plenty going on in life, but he chooses to make the shir, Baruch Hashem, a priority. So Steve, on behalf of the entire shir, thank you so very much. Thank you so very much. And before we get to the other sponsors, Chaburah, it's also important for us to be Makan Tov to Reb Eli, who mamish like
follows her up everywhere with the guitar.
Yeah. He wishes. I do wish.
Mariachi.
I do.
After the opening one.
Chaburah, you know that, by the way, when you see Eli and you see a guitar, the one thing you could be absolutely sure of is that you are about to be taken on a journey towards Shamayim. So we're really privileged, Baruch Hashem, to be able to enter into Erev Shabbos like this. Steve takes care of our Gashmios, Rebelli takes care of our Ruchnios, and Baruch Hashem, we have a wonderful team here. So it's important because guys in the shul, Baruch Hashem, really, and this is just one share, but guys really devote themselves and just roll up their sleeves. Things don't never happen by themselves. I have to also just thank Rabbi Yoni Frager, besides the fact to wish him a happy birthday. But Yoni makes sure that I always have seltzer. To know. My great fear in life is always running. No, that's not really my great fear, but one of my fears, running out of seltzer. Yoni has taken it upon himself to make sure that I never run out of seltzer, and it's again a lot of you, Yoni. Thank you. Really, everyone who just pitches in. Steve, who are our sponsors tonight?
Rev Tzvi Friedman, in honor of him being off tonight. But he did sponsor.
There is a buyout option. There is a buyout
option. No show, but we'll take your money. And most important, Matt Walters, Lila Nishmas, his grandmother, Malka Bas Binyamin Baruch Alea, whose yahrzeit was yesterday. Sham Shem Aliyah. To all of our sponsors. We dedicate our learning in the zechus of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, in the zechus of our holy soldiers who are being moser nefesh and literally willing to lay down their lives for Am Yisrael, wherever they are, for Eretz Yisrael. And we hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, Baruch Hu should give them hatzlach in all of their missions, allow them to be successful in stamping out this evil and stamping out this enemy wherever they may be, and may they return to their families b'shalom and b'karov. Amen. We also dedicate our learning in the zechus of the hostages. Still overwhelming to think about that. We're still, our brothers and sisters, still being held captive, condition unknown, whereabouts unknown, and we follow the news with the potential deal. But Imam Mish is like, it's literally a deal with the devil. It's literally a deal with the devil. And that Am Yisrael is placed in this situation of having to decide between the welfare of individuals versus the welfare of the collective. And it's the most horrible situation for our leaders to be placed in the most horrible situation, because every Yiddish in the Neshama, every Jewish soul, every Jew, every Yid is like an Olam Maleh. And that there are over 130 worlds. Over 130 worlds that are in this situation. Overwhelming. Chassidus Chaburah should just give our leaders the siyata d'shmaya to make the right decisions. But most of all, HaKadosh Baruch Hu could do anything and everything. The emotional who we just read about, just 2 weeks ago, last week, Parshas B'Shalach, we just read about, that the emotional took out 3.5 million people from bondage and servitude. So we said, Ribono Shel Olam, if you could do 3.5 million, you definitely could do 133. Definitely could do 133. So we ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to flex his divine muscles. We ask HaKadosh Baruch Hu to please bring back each and every one of our hostages. And halavai, we should be zocha to see them reunited with their families, b'shalom and b'karov. So we'll say, let's continue. We're continuing tonight.
I don't mean to sit there, but one thing I saw this week, which no one ever seems to be focused on, is over 13,000 soldiers that were injured.
Right, absolutely.
We talk about so many things.
Absolutely. Right. And the refuah shalema for all of those who have been injured on October 7th, and also again in this war that Klal Yisrael has been waging. Absolutely. Thank you, Nechemia. So we'll say we are beginning tonight, Yemir Hashem, on Shin Chav Vav. I was going to do a little chazara from last week, but then I realized bad idea. We're not going to cover any ground. But if I were to do a chazara, I would say the following. So remember again what we saw last week, just again for those new, and brother Chaburah, make sure you give a very special welcome to David Sharabi, who is Baruch Hashem joining us. Oh, wow. People often confuse us. Just the difference is I have my sleeves down tonight. So whatever.
What do you mean? My sleeves down too.
No, okay. Whatever. So I don't want you to get confused. That we're sitting next to each other, but Mamish, one of our neshamas tahoros, Baruch Hashem. Welcome to the Chaburah, to Jeremy Lassen. Baruch Hashem. He's not new, but he's not. He's not because he's come before. Baruch Hashem. Everything okay at home? Yes, okay, all right, that's right. Oh, no, it's a Pasnik, Baruch Hashem. No, sorry, I'm a lefty. No, I'm a lefty. I like slant this way. Thank you. Welcome to Rab Noah, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Haba. Josh Friedman, incredible. Yeah, it's been a couple of times. That's right. I never officially welcomed you. Welcome to Josh Friedman. All right, we'll do a welcome from a different share. We'll say about to everyone for coming out. So remember again what we are learning, what we are speaking about. And Moshe David. I'm sorry, Moshe David Artman also. I shouldn't have started with this. It's a slippery slope. Okay, it's like thank yous. It's like thank yous. I know. All right, so let's focus on the Piyush Jatzna. So we're learning our Rebbe tonight. We're learning the Piyush Jatzna. Now remember again, we're in Tzav V'Zeruz, which is the Piyush Jatzna's journal. So remember again what the Piyush Jatzna, the Yesod, the concept that the Piyush Jatzna has highlighted, is that the challenge we have with sin, when a person commits an Avera, and I will say again, remember, the Piyush Jatzna is operating from the vantage point, we all commit Averas, right? So let's just take that for granted. Sometimes it's about like committing an Averas, like we look down, no, we're all in the same boat. We're all in the same boat. We all commit Averas. The only difference is what type of Averas we commit. But that's not important for tonight. The point is we all commit Averas, and what we don't realize is that sometimes Averas leave their impact, according to the Piyush Jatzna, on the mind, on the right, the moach, the lave, the heart, but on the nefesh, on the soul as well. And the challenge, says the Piyush Jatzna, is that sometimes in the process of tshuva, we focus on removing chet from the mind and from the heart, but we forget to remove chet from the soul. And remember again, the Piyush Jatzna gives the example. Piyush Jatzna gives the example ultimately again of a patient, right? Remember again with the stomach issue, he's constantly vomiting. So if he goes to an amateur doctor, the doctor will treat the symptoms of vomiting, but he won't get to the root. A lot of times in our ruchnios, we do the same thing. We treat the symptoms, but we don't get to the root. And the problem is when you don't get to the root, the illness, the sickness is still, it's bubbling up inside of me. So we then started last week talking about, so how do you uproot the residual effects of sin from the soul? How do you do that? So now that I understand that chet impacts me on these three levels, so how to get it out of my mind, I could understand, right? That's about directing my thoughts and not thinking about certain things or not thinking in certain ways. How to get it out of my heart is working on my desires, right? How to get it out of my soul, which means how do I remove the residual effects? It's like I was talking with someone today, and they mentioned to me that they had to go to the doctor for something. And the doctor ran a bunch of blood tests, and the doctor and the blood test showed up that the person had a particular type of virus. Person had no idea. And it was so interesting to me because that's exactly what we're learning about, right? In other words, that sometimes there's stuff that's living inside of me. I'm not even conscious of it. I don't even know about it, but yet it's there and it's festering. And if left untreated, then at the end of the day, it just continues to fester. So now, we'll say if we go kind of through this progression, I know that I've sinned. I know which averas that I've done. And now I need to figure out a way to treat the core illness and remove sin in totality from who and what I am. Remember, we'll say, what are we aiming for? All too often in Ruchnius, according to the Piyush Jatzna, all too often, what's our goal in Ruchnius? What's our goal? Or what's our goal when it comes to sin?
Not to do it.
Right? Restraint. Right? And by the way, restraint is huge. If I could restrain myself from doing things, that's incredible. The Piyush Jatzna says, however, the problem is we think that restraint is like the final goal. Restraint is a step, right? After restraint, what's the goal? It's total, complete removal of the sin from who I am. I want to purge myself of any residual part of this sin, of this avera at all. So as I said, then the question becomes, so how do we do it? So remember again, we learned already step number 1 last week. Step number 1 was in the first paragraph of page Shin Chavav. What was step number 1? Remember? What was step number 1? A little chazara. Step number 1 was? Hey, it's fair. Jeremy has it out. Recognition, right? Remember again, you have to be a Baal Achrayus. You have to believe that the buck of your life stops with you. In other words, I would say, remember, people, it's so interesting. Human nature is such that when something goes wrong, our reflexive reaction is to blame someone or something else. Why? Many of us do that. Why do we do that? Because like this, if it's someone else's fault, it's not my problem. The problem is when you outsource your problems to someone else, while it's true that you've outsourced the source of the problem, what you've also done is you've outsourced the resolution of the problem, right? If someone else created this, that means, again, someone else has all of the power. Well, if someone else has all the power, then I can't fix it. Meanwhile, if you look at the opposite way, if I find the strength to own it, no, the stuff that I do is on me. It's on me. Does it mean that other people don't contribute to that? Of course they do. Of course they do. My upbringing contributes to it. My marriage contributes to it. My friends contribute to it. Everything contributes. But at the end of the day, the buck of my life stops with me. I am the balachrayis over me. If I take that ownership, that means that I have complete ability to fix whatever's broken as well. And that's empowering. See, people don't realize that when you deflect responsibility, essentially what you're doing is you are, disempowering, emasculating. I know it's not disemboweling, that's the wrong word, right? But like whatever that word is, like, I don't know, what's the word? Taking away the power from yourself, dispowering, I don't know, whatever, right?
We don't speak English.
Right, dispowering. Good. Yeah, not a good word.
No, it's
not a word? Disempowering. You see? Good, I was missing an EM over here. Fine. Right? Disempowering, right? So we'll say, so remember again, when you disempower yourself, so at the end of the day, you're rendered fundamentally helpless. By the Chaver, make sure everyone, do we everybody got l'chaim? Yeah, the Chaver, Ruvain, right? Josh. Sorry, we're out of adult stuff. We only have scotch left, so I'm sorry. It's okay, whatever. Hey, I'll say so.
Use a third sponsor.
Yeah, we can use a third sponsor, Mir Hashem. All right, next week. So I'll say so. Remember again. So as tempting as it is to assign blame to someone else, it's disempowering. As opposed to if you own it, as difficult as it is for me to own the fact that I have made bad decisions, that I have made wrong turns, that I have messed up in life. Like I think I quoted Rabbi Nachman. Last week, Rabbi Nachman says, if you believe that you have the power to destroy, then believe that you have the power to build. Then it's actually empowering. It hurts to own it, but once you own it, you're like, wow, I destroyed this being me, then I have the ability to rebuild it. And that's the Piaget, that's step one. That's step one, because the Piaget says, if you're still that child, right, or that person, remember our not me story, right, our famous not me story, right? If you're still the not me guy, as you can see Ramat, if you don't know what the story I'm talking about, and you weren't ever been in Achshavatov, you'll see Ramat for it. Hey, if you're the not me guy, then I will say, you're powerless. You're powerless. But if you say, maybe like eyes looking downward, and maybe feeling a bit dejected, yeah, it's all me. My mistakes are mine. My mess-ups are mine, right? My missteps, my misdeeds, my averos, all mine. Then as brutal as it feels to assume that level of responsibility, take a deep breath, and now, wow, I'm in charge. Ani Gever, right? I'm the man. I got this. Because if I broke it, then I have the ability to fix it. That's step one. Let's see step two. Aval. We'll say I have to tell you something. This is beautiful. This piece is absolutely beautiful. I gave him, so I'll tell you on the side. Just you see, we'll say, like the impact of the Rebbe's life. So I was giving a different shir today, just to a smaller group of guys. And we normally learn a different sefer, Bilbavi Mishkan Evne. And I decided today, you know what I wanted to do? Ish Kodesh. Reb Jacob and I learned the piece. So the Rebbe has a piece from the year Tafshin, 1939. Beautiful, beautiful piece in Parshas Yisro. So one of the guys said to me, he said, Rebbe, you're always teaching the Piaget, always the Piaget. Like there's a lot of other Torah out there. So I said, you're right, there's so much beautiful Torah. But the Piaget is the Piaget. And again, when you have a Rebbe, and you have a Rebbe who gives you Olam Hazin, Olam Haba, you don't have to look anywhere else. You don't need another source. So I feel like today was a good day, because I learned Piaget in the afternoon, and now Piaget at night. Look what the Rebbe says. So in addition to the fact that I have to work on myself, in order to, right, or like we said before, lavod v'lifal bahen. So both says we spoke about before. So halacha l'maisa, person has to go ahead and really try to uproot, and to really, it's not even uproot. Josh, you have a sheet? However, we got to take care of each other. We have to take care of it. You see someone without a sheet, come, we got to, either if somebody's missing a sheet or a l'chaim, either of those two things are not acceptable. All right, so we'll say, so now remember again, so the Piagetson says as follows. Remember, we spoke about before, step one is identifying the fact that I have to root out the core averus from inside of me. That's step one. Step two is I got to own it. And we'll say, watch this. This is incredible. He says, Step, we'll say next step. What's the next step? Quotes the pasuk from Mishlei. Daiga belev ish yashchena. I will say now, literally translated, Daiga belev ish, worry in the heart of a person, yashchena. Now, what does yashchena mean? So the Gemara darshans, yasichena la'acherim. Talk about it with other people. If you have something on your mind, the best thing you could do, talk about it with other people. Discuss it, share it. He says, "V'lo amru ma ya'asa acher lahakel dagas hamasiach v'hamasaper." And I will say, here's what's interesting. So Shalom Melech says, "Daiga b'lev ish yashchena." If you have something that's troubling you, sitting on your heart, sitting on your mind, share it. Talk about it with a close friend, right, or with an acquaintance, or someone who you believe could keep your confidence. Talk about it.
It's the makar for therapy.
I'm sorry?
It's the makar for therapy.
It's the makar for having a friend. But it could be. In other words, the idea that if you keep stuff bottled up, it's corrosive. It's corrosive. Like it eats you from the inside out. A person has to be able to take what they have going on inside of them and discuss it. It could be a therapist, it could be a friend, it could be a spouse. It's someone who you trust, who you could share it with. Now here's what's going on. It says the Piagetna. So Shalom Melech says, if you have a worry in your heart, share it. What doesn't Shalom Melech say? So I'm going to share it, right? So I have a friend, I share it with my friend. So it doesn't say what the friend is supposed to do, right? It's interesting, right? All Shalom Melech says is, if you have something on your mind, share it. That's the goal. What is my friend going to do? V'lo amru ma yasa acher lahakel daigas hamasiach v'hamasaper. Okay, so I have something on my mind, something troubling me. I share it. Okay, so now what is the listener? We'll call him the listener. The listener, friend, therapist, Rav, Rebbe, spouse, whatever it is, whoever it is. What is that person supposed to do? Why? Listen to what Piaget says. Because it really doesn't matter what the listener is going to do. This is incredible. It doesn't matter. He says, "Mipnei ki adibor biatzmo godol kocho lahotzi es hachartzubos mikirvei hanefesh velivlites lehisaser ulekanein ba shum akmumius." Piaget says, I will say, everybody thinks that when you share something with someone, the goal is what? What's the goal? A solution, right? I'm gonna get like some nugget of wisdom, some pearl of wisdom. I will say, anyone who's ever spoken to someone about real life problems knows that a lot of times, like, life's problems don't have solutions. But everyone also knows, who's ever done it knows, that when you're able to share it with someone else, you feel like 1,000,000 pounds lifted off your soul. But nothing's changed. Nothing's changed, right? Validation, right? Even just having someone else listen, someone else hear. And I would say, Ravishi, even before you even get to validation, right? Because even validation is a step, right? You need the person who's listening to validate. I think the PhD even before that, there is the cathartic experience of taking something troubling that lives inside of you and allowing it to come out. And now suddenly, again, I don't have to shoulder the whole thing internally. Now, ultimately, again, it's outside of me. And now that it's outside of me, I relate to it differently. And the Piaget says that's why Shlomo HaMelech makes no mention, right? He says, Daiga b'levish yashchena. If you have a problem going on inside of you, speak about it with your chaver. But okay, so I took the next pasuk that Shlomo HaMelech would say, and chaver, when you hear the problems of your friend, then what? Do X, Y, and Z. But he doesn't say that, right? Instead, what happens? Avron, you don't have to, you're not in Chayrim over there or anything like that. Come inside. The water's great. Come on. Say, give him a Is there still
like a half a shot?
Is there good? Give Avron a l'chaim. Good. Thank you. Seriously, people, come on. What do I ask of you? Right, excellent. So we'll say, so now, the Piaget is something amazing. So there's no expectation of the listener other than to simply go ahead and listen. That's it. That's it. Why? We'll say now. It's very interesting. Why? What's the power of taking something inside of you and bringing it out? So we'll say. So what the Piaget, we'll see this a little bit in just a moment. We'll say he says like this. He says that here's the issue. What happens? We'll say maybe this has happened to you. It certainly happened to me. I do something wrong. Right? Generally, how do you feel after you do something wrong? How do you feel?
Feel bad.
Right? Feel terrible. Feel bad, right? Let's say, then what happens? Something amazing happens, which is, right? So then, suddenly again, the guilt begins to ebb away a little bit, so I don't feel as guilty. Now, if you're talented, you'll begin to go ahead and rationalize. Here's why I did this. If you're super talented, you could actually begin to explain that this actually wasn't something bad at all. Right? It actually was a mitzvah. I never realized it. I'm a tzaddik. It never dawned on me before. I'm a gutton atzum. I don't want to brag. I might even be one of the Lamed Vavniks. I might be, but they're hidden, so I don't want to say anything. Shabbos says, Piaget says something amazing. He says the power of talking about your problems is what happens. Now they're real. See, when stuff remains inside of me, I could rationalize, twist, historical revision. I could do a whole bunch of stuff. But once it comes out into the world, now it's, I said it. I said what I did. I spoke about it with someone. So now it's a reality. So now again, whatever filling your avera, whatever it is that I did, there's no historical revisionism, right? There's no ability to repackage it. I said it, and now that I said it, by the way, this is not the Piaget's idea, right? Where does this come from? This comes from the Rambam Seches Yuma. This comes from the Rambam in Hilchos Tshuva. The Rambam, Perek Aleph, Halacha Aleph in Hilchos Tshuva. What is the first step of Tshuva? According to Rambam, first step of Tshuva is vidui. At least the first thing the Rambam talks about in Tshuva is vidui. What's vidui? Confession. What's confession? I did this. Right? I admit it. What's the power of admitting something? Once you admit it, you can't repackage it. So now we're dealing with realities. If you don't do vidui, then it's inside of me, and we all do this, right? I have plenty of averas that I have been able to repackage as actually I've done a favor for all of humanity in Klal Yisrael, right? That's how good and talented I am, right? Because if it stays in here and no one else knows about it, then I could do whatever I want with it. But the moment I articulate it, the moment I bring it into the world, the moment that someone else hears it, there's no running from it anymore. Now, this is what it is. As well as I said before, again, let's say, we talk about therapy. This is part of the power of therapy is going ahead and confronting your problems. Well said, but I think what you see, according to Piaget, therapy doesn't have to be done with a therapist. One you could do with a therapist, of course, but I'm just saying that there's a therapeutic process that a person could undergo just by themselves, which we're going to talk about. But that's the power of articulating something. Now it's real. And now that it's real, it can't be repackaged or it can't be revised. Look what he says. He goes on. As Baal Shem Tov said, literally, my soul comes out with speech. That once you say it, the reality of your life becomes present. This is beautiful. margish zos gam biatzmo. Im yesh lo daiga v'kas. So I'll say a person, let's say, has some type of worry or he's worried about something, angry about something. As af kishedome hu sheshachach kaso v'da'agaso mikol makom rak me'idav nistera aval bekerev nafsho haki nistera. I'll say this is incredible. Leaving aside sin for just a second. Let's say a person has anxiety about something. They're angry about something. They're anxious about something. They're worried about something. And I don't deal with it. And it stays inside of me. So what happens? Well, I say, now, right? So I was angry, anxious, upset, fearful of something on a Monday. Okay, I took a deep breath. I'm okay. Now it's Wednesday. And now, Baruch Hashem, I feel great. So I assume that because I feel great, what does that mean about that anger, anxiety, all? What do I assume has happened? What do I assume? It's gone. Piaget says, it's not gone. It's there. It's there. It's sitting there. Okay, so maybe again, it's not in the conscious, it's in the subconscious, or maybe it's not in the frontal lobe, right?
Healthy compartmentalizing some things in order to function without having
100%. But compartmentalization is a Band-Aid.
Right.
It's a Band-Aid. And remember again, that's the Piaget. And absolutely, you remember, you can't solve every single problem instantly. So it's absolutely a need to say, okay, there's a problem. I can't allow it to paralyze me. I need to compartmentalize it. Remember, what the Piaget is really driving at over here is, just like we think restraint is enough, we think compartmentalization is enough also. The problem with compartmentalization is, while it's healthy and necessary to get me through the day, the anger, the anxiety, the frustration, the guilt, it's all there. It's all just sitting there. Mikol makom rak me'inav nistara. So you can't see it, right? You can't feel it. But he says, aval bekerev nafsho hakinistar. But he says, inside of you, says, the vomit is there, right? All roads lead back to vomit, right? In other words, that right? Because that's the metaphor, right? That's the metaphor. The vomit is there, right? The stomach ulcer is there. So right now, again, I feel great. And I assume because I feel great, everything is absolutely fine. Except it's not. Like internally, there's like this volcano that's erupting. Now, the truth is right now, it's only rumbling, right? It's not erupting, but it's all in there and it's all working and it's all moving forward. He goes on, he says, v'haya im tosafna dagos, listen to this, v'toshavna li'statra me'inav b'kerev nafsho, tisparatzna achar kach li'es musar sher tismala sasana. You know what happens? You know what happens with people who keep stuff inside and don't work on resolving it? You know what happens? Then there's a trigger. There's a trigger. And what happens when there's a trigger? What happens to the trigger? Volcano. We'll say, then suddenly again, everything comes out. We'll say, sometimes you see this in people, right? You ever see someone just have a ridiculously exaggerated reaction to something that goes wrong? Right? So just like, and like you're wondering, like, whoa, like what happened here? Like what? Don't name names. Don't name names. Right. Like. I had to do it. You had to do it.
Now we have to start recording.
That was Eli Cohn. Right.
I'm sorry.
I was like, started right there. I was say so. I would say, so something, right? So sometimes you see this. Right? You're interacting with someone. Okay, something goes wrong, and like they have this explosive reaction, and you're like, "Whoa, what is that?" Piaget says, "I'll tell you what it is. It's unresolved stuff. It's unresolved vomit, right? It's unresolved. It's anger, animosity, difficulty, failure, sadness, grief, guilt, whatever else you want to throw into that emotional cholent, right? It's all in there. And I've been carrying it around all this time, and I thought I was fine. Why? Because I'm happy, because I'm good, because everything's okay. But meanwhile, again, everything is there. So what happens? All it takes is one little spark. All it takes is one little trigger, and suddenly, again, that entire volcano is erupting. We talk about this like we all know people. I think we've all experienced this as well. We've all had those moments, those trigger moments, where like we just fly off the handle. Right, we just lose it, and then when we kind of regain ourselves a little bit, regaining control, like what was that? Like, why did I react that way? Why did I behave that way? And the Piaget says it's actually pretty simple. It's because there's a whole bunch of unresolved vomit. I just want to say how many times I can use the word vomit in a sentence. Right? It's because I have all this unresolved stuff inside of me that I've never gotten out. So the Rebbe goes on. He says, "V'zeh yisod ba'ali." This is incredible. He says, "V'zeh yisod ba'ali hamara shchora shenetzavam pitom below siba mamashes." So I will say the Piaget says this often is what happens with people who suffer from depression. And I will say, now I just want to just a disclaimer here. We're not talking about someone who, let's say, suffers from clinical depression, which absolutely again is an illness. Is an illness. No different that you wouldn't blame someone who has cancer, for having cancer, someone who has depression. Like again, the mental illness is illness, just like any illness. What the Rebbe is saying, so I think when he says over here about depression, let's leave aside a clinical. Mm-hmm. But a lot of times when people get depressed in life, or people are down, he says, Pitom below siba mamashes. Sometimes they'll say, a person will slip into a depression, and they're like, why did this happen? Why do I feel enveloped by darkness? Why do I feel this way? The Rebbe says, Sometimes it's just because I'm schlepping along a lot of stuff. And so what happens is, like when my guard is up, so I'm good. Like, right, I'm good at keeping everything down. But in those moments when maybe my guard is a little bit less, then suddenly what happens? I'm not as guarded, and all of the schmutz and all of the vomit and all of the stuff and everything else just comes bubbling up. He says, now watch this. Im yesh lo ohev v'reya v'mismar page shin chav zayin v'mismar lefanav al da'aga so mekayim bazeh daiga b'lev ish yashchan al-acherim. Now we'll say, now you see the power of having a friend. Right? What's the power of having a friend? Someone to talk to. Someone to talk to. Now we'll say, here's the incredible part. What do you see from the Piaget's, no? See, I will say, people often think that, okay, I'm going to talk to someone. So who are you going to talk to? You're going to find someone. Who are you going to talk to? Someone who what? Someone who what? Right? So we often think that it's someone who has answers. But the truth is, like it's really someone who listens. See, I will say, I think as we get older, we recognize we actually have a lot of the answers in life. Right? Rarely is it so that, like, you talk to someone and they give you a piece of advice and you're like, oh, I never thought of that before. It happens sometimes, but it's not so common. More often than not, the greatest pieces of advice we get are things we already knew, but for whatever reason we weren't focusing on. So the Piaget says what you need in your chaver is not someone who has all the answers. What you just need is someone who's willing to listen, and I would just add in a non-judgmental fashion. Yes?
So this is very key how the Shlomo Melech says, "Dagi b'lev efer, b'lev ish yashchan." There's an expression in Yiddish that, a person sometimes has to let out his heart. You would have thought, just on the surface, that what is really going on, someone asks you what the problem is, they usually say, what's on your mind?
Right.
It's not what's on your heart, it's
right.
What's on your mind. The Shlomo Melech says that's not the issue.
Beautiful.
It's not what's on your mind, the issue is what's in your heart.
Beautiful, right. It's not daiga b'moachish, right? Daiga b'leish. Beautiful. Let's finish at the paragraph. He says, "V'shumismar lefanav al da'agas umekayim bazeh daiga b'lev ish yashchen al-acherim." Margish, so we'll say, what happens as soon as you share it? Margish tekef shekemo even galal me'al libo. We'll say, the moment you share your difficulties and troubles with someone else, you'll feel as if a stone has been removed from your heart. There's da'agaso mikerev nafsho akar. And ultimately, again, all of the daiga is lifted up. So we'll say, second step. Whereas first step in the process of removing sin from the soul, ultimately is ownership of your life situation. Step number 2 is finding someone to talk to. Finding someone to unburden yourself to. Because if you don't, and all of that schmutz, and all of that darkness, and all of that negativity, which we all have, stays inside, it's corrosive. And it'll destroy you from the inside out. Masha'in kain, if you're able to articulate it and share it with someone else, it does 2 things. Number 1, it forces you to confront, because once you say it, you can't run from it anymore, and you can't repackage it anymore, and you can't pretend to do it anymore. And number 2, the act of taking it from the outside, from the inside out, ultimately lifts 1,000,000 pounds from your soul. And once that weight is lifted, then you have the ability to really engage in the real work. All right, so we have to stop over here for tonight. Tremendous. And we're going to see again, we're not finished with this section. There's still more to do in Meretz Hashem. I said tremendous. Shkayach, Ma'ariv in the shul.
Do we recycle these?
Yeah, I'm going to
recycle them for next week.
Coming back?
Inshallah. Very enjoyable. I appreciate it.
Incredible, right? Incredible.
Inside pod.
Good. Things that